Welcome back to our exploration of Spanish wine. In our last session, we looked at the famous names of the Upper Ebro and the Duero and outlined Spanish wine law. But if you stop there, you're missing more than half of the story of Spanish wine. Today, we are ignoring Rioja, we are ignoring Ribera del Duero. Instead, we're going to travel to the edges and the center of this massive country. Let's get started. We're going to start in the wet, windswept northwest, where the wines are crisp and aromatic. We'll travel across to the east to Catalunya, home to one of only 2 DOCA regions in Spain. And then we'll head south to the Levante to see how grapes survive this baking Mediterranean heat. And finally, we will stand in the center of the Meseta, the vast central plateau of Castilla-La Mancha, which is the engine room of Spanish production. Let's start in the green corner of Spain. If you think of Spain as dry and hot, the Northwest will shock you. This area is dominated by the Atlantic Ocean. Deep forests of pine trees, local remnants of Celtic civilizations before they jumped over to the British Isles. This is not the stereotypical landscape of Don Quixote. Now, the most famous region here is Rias Biaxas. Now, climate here is moderate maritime, and it is damp, humid, and has a lot of cooling influences coming directly from the Atlantic. As you might expect, because of that humidity, fungal diseases like mildew and rot are a massive threat. To combat this, you will see the ancient training systems here, those pergola systems. The vines are trained high above the ground on stone pillars and wire, and this allows air to circulate under the canopy to dry out the grapes and prevents rot. Our star grape here is Albarino. This grape has thick skins, which helps it resist fungal disease, and it naturally retains high acidity, which is crucial in this maritime climate. These resulting wines are almost always unoaked, refreshing, and defined by high natural acidity and ripe stone fruit flavors. Now, if we move slightly inland into the mountains, we find Bierzo, also a DO. Now, this is a transition zone. It has a moderate maritime climate, but that benefits from a cooling influence from the ocean, and it sits in between the wetter coastal regions and the hot inland regions. The key grape here is a red variety called Mencia. Mencia produces wines with fresh fruit, naturally high acidity, and sometimes a hint of herbaceousness. It's often described as elegant rather than powerful compared to some of the other Spanish reds, and you can think of it as Spain's Pinot Noir in a way, although it is a little bit more potent and full-flavored, if not a little less subtle and nuanced. Now let's go all the way across the country to the northeast corner, bordering France and on the Mediterranean, Catalunya. This is a powerhouse region with a distinct identity. The Penedès DO, this is the largest and most significant area here. The Penedès is unique because it's divided into 3 distinct climatic zones based on altitude and distance from the sea. Our coastal plain, this is the hottest area. Our inland valleys get slightly cooler, and then we have the hills, where plantings are up to 800 meters in altitude, where it becomes more moderate. Now, because of this diversity, the Penedès grows almost everything. You'll have the traditional white grapes used for cava, our Macabeo, or Viura, Chorrello, and Priorat. But you also have massive plantings of international varieties like Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Merlot, and Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, like I said, this is cava country, which we'll discuss that more in our sparkling lectures. But now we need to talk about the crown jewel of Catalunya, Priorat, which is a DOCA. Along with Rioja, it's the only other region to have this prestigious DOCA category. In Catalan, they call it a DOQ. Now, Priorat is hot. It has a warm Mediterranean climate with very dry summers. But the secret to Priorat is the soil. It's called Yicorella. This consists of layers of red slate with small particles of mica. Now, why does this matter? Well, it does reflect heat back onto the vines to help ripening, but it also runs deep, forcing the roots to dig down for water. And it also manages to conserve what little moisture it gets in this dry climate. Now, the terrain here is so steep that mechanization is usually impossible. The vines are often old bush vines with very low yields. The blend here is usually dominated by Garnacha and Cariñena, although Syrah also makes an appearance here, which is not surprising considering Syrah's prominence throughout the Med as you head east. And because of the heat and those low yields, the wines are deeply colored with high tannins, full body, and can have some pretty high alcohol. And they are concentrated, complex, and can be expensive. And delicious. Now, as we move south down the Mediterranean coast, we enter the Levante. Now, the headliner here is Monastrell, say the Valencia DO. This large, spread-out DO is known for value. It produces a mix of local and international varieties. As I said, you will find Monastrell here for reds, but also Mersegura and Muscat of Alexandria for whites. Jumilla and Yecla are both DOs inland from the coast, and the climate becomes even more extreme. These guys have a very hot, arid climate. It's just baking hot here in the summer. This is where Monastrell or Mourvedre really shines. Why? Because it's drought tolerant and loves the heat. It needs these hot conditions to ripen fully. Not many other grapes can handle the heat here. And as you might expect, the wines produced here are deeply colored and full-bodied, tend to have medium acidity. The flavor profile is dominated by ripe cooked blackberries. Now, while they can be complex, the majority are youthful and fruity in style. And these wines have an increasing cult following in the US as they stand toe-to-toe against the juicy red blends like those dominated by Zin that come out of the warm areas of California. Finally, we're going to move to the center of Spain, to the Meseta Central. This is Castilla-La Mancha. This is a DO. This is the largest DO in Spain. It is vast. And as you might expect, the climate is hot continental. In the summer, it's incredibly hot, and in the winter, it is freezing. Rainfall is very low. As far as our grapes, we say Ren. This is the most widely planted grape in all of Spain, and it's mostly found here. It's a white grape that can survive the extreme heat and drought, although much of it is used for the production of brandy de Jerez. That heat and ripeness means that the acid often falls off, leading to distillation being the destination for most Eren-based wines. They can get Tempranillo to ripen here quite easily as well, and it's locally called Cencibel. This is the key grape for quality red wines of this area. Now, La Mancha is the engine of Spanish exports. It produces huge volumes of inexpensive red and white wines. But technology, specifically temperature-controlled fermentation, is beginning to revolutionize this region, allowing for fresh, fruity wines despite that heat. Now, if we go immediately south, we get to Valdepeñas. It shares the same climate and grape varieties, Eren and Cencibel or Tempranillo, and like La Mancha, it focuses on export-ready styles, although some estates produce concentrated wines of higher quality. Now, even within these bulk wine regions, we have producers that kind of take it a step further. These are our Vinos de Pago. So you might see this on a label in these regions. These are single estates that have very high reputations, and it allows these top producers to label their wines under their own estate name rather than the generic DO, provided they use only their own grapes and do all the vinification on site. These are treasures you can seek out. So let's recap the incredible diversity we have discovered today. The Northwest, Rias Biaxas, defined by the Atlantic. Damp maritime climate, requiring pergolas to keep the Albarino grapes healthy and rot-free. Then all the way over to Catalunya, which is a region of contrast. the international versatility of the Penedès versus the specific high-quality terroir of Priorat, where those Yecla slate soils produce powerful Garnacha and Cariñena wines. Then we moved into the Levante with Jumilla and Yecla, where the heat-loving Monastrell thrives in arid conditions to produce deep, ripe reds. And then Castilla-La Mancha and the Central Plateau, where Jaén and Tempranillo, they're called Cencibel, provide the world with value-driven wine from hot continental climate. Now, Spain is so much more than Rioja. It's so much more than even the regions that we touched on today. It's a country that ranges from the rainy green north to the arid red center, offering a style for every palate. Thank you for watching. Good luck with your studies, and we'll see you next time.